Welcome to Elegance in Every Step. I'm your maitre d', Mary Postlethwaite. We hope you've come famished. We've prepared the finest table just for you. Our special today is Hungry, a dish we've been perfecting for 21 seasons now. Your table is alongside another guest. It might feel a bit unusual. However, we encourage you to dive in and hear their story. Today, we're serving up a conversation about craving the right things in life. Sit back, enjoy a complimentary appetizer. Your host, Neil Matthews, will be along shortly to guide you through today's meal. Bon appetit.
Yes. Welcome in, one and all, other people's shoes. It got me thinking today as I made my long journey. I think it's like 20 steps from my back door to the studio. I was thinking about candy bars today. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of our guest. Maybe there's other reasons. Who knows? It really got me thinking, your favorite candy bar. I heard it said to some pro athletes recently. They interviewed these college kids coming into the NFL draft, and they asked them, what's your gas station sustenance, the thing that you always get at the gas station? And these pro athletes are like, we get a Gatorade, and they're name dropping left and right. But it got me even thinking today of the things in life that satisfy. My mom, maybe she malformed us. She said candy bars were not nourishment. And I'm like, Mom, Snickers says it satisfies. Is Snickers right or is my mom right? That's maybe a question for a later day and a later time. But help me welcome in my new friend, Charlie, or Charles, maybe even.
Neil, thank you so much for having me. I guess the answer to that question is, what is your emotional satisfaction or physical satisfaction? Whoever can answer that will find what's most appealing to them at a gas station. For me, it would be, I would say, peanut M&Ms as an athlete. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity just to be able to share a little bit about my journey, a little bit of insights, converse with you, hear a little bit more about your philosophy, and really just get to know each other in this session and have some good conversation.
I don't know if I have a philosophy yet. That sounds too academic. Is that the right word? I feel like it is in this moment. Yeah, I don't know if I have a philosophy yet. I'm still trying to find my way. That's the joy of life. Is I often say I let my curiosity lead the way, and sometimes that can get dangerous. Sometimes that can get downright scary. Sometimes it can even get, peculiar. That's a good word too, I like. We'll see if all those facets and elements come into today's conversation. But I mean this when I say this. I'm really excited to talk to you because there's some things about what you've done and what you've been a part of that have always fascinated me. And I don't know how old you are, but I'm going to ask you to maybe time travel a little bit today. We'll see where that goes and where that leads. But help us with this as we lead off every show. We love to, at least, with this question, and that's this. What size shoes do you wear?
I'm a 9.5, smaller size of feet of things, but 9.5 size. I'm barely 6 foot, so 5'11". Never shy away from saying that. But yeah, that's who I am on the shoe size side of things.
We even got a height in there. I feel like a little Dan Patrick. They come on the show and they say, well, Dan, I'm 6'2", and I'm a robust 225. We don't ask weight. We never will. I feel like that's off limits. There's some things that are off limits. That is an off limits one. Well, help us with this because I know you've come from the athlete arena, and I'm sure you're no stranger to sponsor dollars. Was there a pair of shoes or maybe a set of shoes or a brand of shoes that you're like, man, these have to be on my feet because of why?
Yeah, great question. Being in the world of sports, technology is everything. When it comes to what's on your feet, what doesn't give you blisters, what gives you blisters, what supports your arc. Everything's about technology. For us, it was really important to always stick with the highest technology out there. And for most athletes, that's always going to be Nike. And Nike, for some reason, has the ability not just to market well, but also be able to create performance shoes on the athletic side of things. When you're talking specifically shoes, we're talking about the Alpha Flies. We're talking about the shoes that helped broke the world record when it came to running the marathon under 2 hours by Eliud Kipchoge. These shoes are shoes that really advanced the world when it came to performance and running. I think I remember buying them on this website because they were not available at all because all the Olympic athletes were using them prior to Tokyo. I was able to snag them for like $500 a couple weeks before the Olympics. Just being able to be in that world is pretty interesting when it comes to shoes, let alone when it comes to technology. Running was part of my sport. Being able able to travel the world with 9 to 10 pairs of shoes at a time because you had specific shoes for specific distances, for specific trainings. Yeah. And all those shoes had to fit you in a way that complemented each other, because if you go from one thing to another, even your performance on the technique side of things changes. And it's beautiful to see how meticulous that technology was, just because we were, and I think we still are a little bit on the forefront of technology when it comes to shoes.
All right. So 2 questions. First off, I want everyone to hear and acknowledge what you just said. You've spent $500 on a pair of shoes. Did I hear that right?
Correct. One
pair.
One pair. Yes.
All right. All you shoe haters out there, now direct your hate towards this man. I'm kidding. My wife freaks out when I spend $200.
I mean, it did.
But
think
they're
there's a
Jordans.
beauty-
Jordans. They're Jordans.
And that's what I was about to say. I mean, there's a beauty in being able to express yourself in the most unique way. And I think that a lot of people do that through shoes. A lot of people do that through clothing. I think there is, if you were to argue, well, what's more sustainable over a long period of time? Well, you can still wear the same shoes over a long period of time. If you look like a stamp by wearing the same clothes over a long period of time, maybe a $200 shirt's not that justifiable.
All right. My next question for you. Do you know where Nike came from? Like their origin story?
No, I do not know where Nike came from.
Portland, Oregon.
Well, that's where the Oregon Nike track is,
Yes.
which is
Yeah.
absolutely gorgeous.
So there's a guy named Bill Bowerman who was a track coach in Coos Bay, Oregon, and he was making shoes out of a waffle maker. And this guy named Steve Prefontaine, who we'll get to momentarily, technically first spokesperson for Nike. And they really developed the technology at the University of Oregon. Oregon and Nike are synonymous with each other. They're like salt and pepper. They're like married together.
Yeah, you could say the mecca for track racing.
Yes.
Kind of. I'm not going to say one of the meccas. Because
No,
they're
I think it
beautiful.
is the Mecca when it comes to running, truly. Yeah. Yeah, I would say that.
You have some of the best runners and athletes, especially in the United States, coming out of Oregon. And it's just, I've never been up to the track out there, but wild.
The greatest runner of all time came out of Oregon, Steve Prefontaine. When you think about the idea of being hungry, now that can be in the metaphorical sense. Maybe you're hungry for competition. Maybe you're hungry for a certain dish or food, or maybe you're just hungry for success. Maybe you're hungry to not fail. But I want it to be for you. I don't want to put you in a pair of shoes that don't fit. See what I did there?
Oh, that's good.
Help me with this. When you think about being hungry, what comes to mind for you, and how does that fit to your story?
It's metaphorically hungry for purpose, hungry for meaning, hungry for fulfillment. And when I say fulfillment, it's not the fulfillment of happiness, but the fulfillment of joy, the fulfillment of being able to know that you're on a mission, and that mission is not just attainable, it's also purposeful, it's adventurous. That hunger is a hunger that, to be very frank with you, might not ever be something that you feel full with. It's always going to be a driving factor. It's always going to be a driving force, a driving motivation to always do better. I think that a lot of people really need to look at the forward mindset or the growth mindset when it comes to how hungry they are to fulfill the purpose, to fulfill the objective, to fulfill the mission that they have in their life. And if they don't have that North Star, then I don't think that there's a place for hunger to really be, or even for hunger to even be acted upon. When I hear hunger, I hear, what am I striving for? What am I wanting to fill my life with purposefully? And what does that journey look like into that direction?
What is that North Star?
For me in my life, it bases itself on the fundamental principles of what I would consider my values, which is love, service, and sacrifice. When I say love, it means being able to treat others as I would want them to treat me, being able to use the power that's so influential, and being able to, regardless if we disagree with each other or agree with each other, knowing that there's respect. Service is being able to serve others, be selfless. I think that goes a long way when it comes to being able to reach even inner fulfillment in that spirit. And sacrifice, anything worth chasing or anything that's worth achieving is not going to come easy. And so what do you do when you need to discipline yourself? What do you do when you need to sacrifice the things around you or even the immediate pleasures to reach that. Once those fundamental principles and values are set, the North Star then becomes, well, what do I want to achieve in life? What's worthwhile achieving? And that sometimes changes a little bit depending on the perspective, the perception in which you take a look at that North Star from. A lot of people will say, well, yeah, it's money, it's fame, or it's even sports success. Ask the question, how fleeting is that? Once you reach that pinnacle, how fleeting is that? You're either going to always want more, or you're going to be left with nothing because you already achieved what you were trying to achieve. Conceptualizing those ideas is extremely important for me. Being able to understand, well, you know, what's my big audacious goal? What is it that I want to pursue in this journey, in this adventurous life? Can I achieve it? And if I can achieve it, well, then at least what legacy am I leaving behind during that journey?
See, some people think of their North Star as their faith or as something else. Is that true of you? Is that the North Star? Is that something, again, personally?
Again, faith in what? Anybody could be like, well, you know, it's faith in my religion. It's faith in, guess, the worldly things that sometimes are, again, are fleeting. And for me, it's if I were to talk about faith, I would talk about faith in the hope that what I live by is going to bring me the most fulfillment in this journey of life. I do believe that if I live by those things every single day, in the small things and even in the big things, that regardless of what comes at me, because we can't write our own story and then say, this is what I want and this is what's going to happen. I mean, life throws life at you. Really being able to see like, well, my North Star are my principles. My North Star is the way that I want to live my life every single day, and what that brings me and what I do with that. How do I steward that is really what defines that journey. I believe that can be summed up into integrity as well. What aligns with yourself? What aligns with your mind, your body, your soul, most inner being, that calling to adventure with inside of you, to be like, no, this is what I'm made for. This is what makes me feel most alive. It's not about making me feel alive through these fleeting experiences that come one day and leave another. What makes me feel most aligned towards whatever it is that I'm doing today that makes me feel at peace, that brings the most amount of benefit to the people around me that I love. And I know all of these things sound hypothetical and they sound really, I would say, just fluffy. I can tell you for a fact that these principles and these ideas are the foundation to achieve greatness, whatever it is that you apply that to, whether it be sports, whether it be business, whether it be podcasts, whatever it is. And I do believe that once somebody has those ideals set in their life, regardless of where they find themselves now, if they can take that step forward into tomorrow with that, believe me, you're going to have a better life experience and quality of life than you did in the past. And I do believe that, because I wouldn't be sitting here. I wouldn't be living the life that I live today, even currently, in all the facets that even you mentioned before. I feel like I've lived 9 different lives in my 29 years. That is something that's pretty eye-opening for me. How the hell did I go from here to here to here? But still living with those principles, I've found myself living a pretty interesting and joyful life.
I love that, by the way. I love that you found kind of the cheat code. I'm not saying you're trying to be nefarious in any way. The idea that you found that sense of purpose, you found that compass to say, no, this is the direction I'm heading in. Join me or not, but this is where I'm going. This is where I'm heading. And I think that's powerful to say. When you think about the Olympics, first off, I'm fascinated by that. Little background story on me. Take you back in time. As I said, the time machine. I think it was 1984, but I remember being on my porch balcony, Camp Pendleton, California, and the Olympic torch running by us. And my mom was so excited, and she busted out the camera. I mean, it was in digital, the Kodak camera, and she's snapping pics. She's weeping, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, it's a guy with a torch. Like, big deal. I didn't realize how significant that was. Fast forward, I get into high school, and I start running cross country, and I start running track. My sophomore year, I run the 3,000, which is the worst race of all time, by the way. If you're not a runner, go look that up. But in that, people start talking about this guy named Steve Prefontaine. And so I go home, and I'm naive when it comes to running. I don't know any of the famous runners of all time. Mentioned to my dad, I'm like, hey, Dad, do you know about this guy, Steve Prefontaine? They called him Pre. I said, he went to your high school. He went to Marshfield. And my dad's like, yeah, his senior year, my freshman year, I'm walking out on the track, and he stepped on my foot, and he said, hey, freshman, get off my track. I'm like, oh my God, Dad, you knew Steve Prefontaine? He goes, he was on my track team. Yeah, I knew him. And then I fast forward to the age of the internet, and I go back and I watch the 72 Olympics 5,000 meter race, by the way, which Steve Prefontaine was in. I encourage people to go watch it. It's boring until about the last 30, 40 seconds of the race. Then it gets interesting. And to me, when I watch that video and I put all my Olympic experience together and then I splash in, I feel like I'm baking a cake here, and then I splash in like the Hunger Games with Katniss Everdeen and all the things, I'm like, that's what I feel like the Olympics were and maybe are in some respects. Kids not killing kids, but the idea of just the aspect of how competitive it can be. And then I fast forward even further and I hear athletes, especially pro athletes, we'll say like NBA guys, not wanting to be in the Olympics, not wanting to go compete, not wanting to wear the U.S. name across their chest. Politically, they're like, I can't represent the United States anymore. I can live in the country and live prosperity and have the prosperity. God, no, I'm not going to put my name associated with the United States. And my dad's a Marine, retired Marine. And so for me, patriotism's a big thing. That flag means something to me. And I know others hate the flag, and I'm not trying to get political per se, but when I look at that flag and I look at what that stands for, and I see athletes such as yourself standing on those podiums and they're weeping and they're singing the national anthem, I'm like, that is patriotism. But that's my Olympic experience.
The Olympics is the only event in the world that really brings together everybody and anyone into one place under one event, under one purpose. Now, clearly, we're not all perfect. There's organizations, people, businesses, whatever. We're not perfect. So let's just get that out of the way. What the Olympics really means is peace, unity, really an opportunity for people to not just show what they got physically, but also bring a sense of almost spirituality behind the fact of being able to express the pinnacle of human physical expression. And that is something that is magical. And the Olympics really brings that spirit together. I can see why your mom was crying and snatched a photo of that Olympic torch. That Olympic torch is symbolic for the light that is lit all throughout the world to bring the world together into this one place. And then light that Olympic torch for 2 weeks and a half. Going to watch what the Olympics is. There is no, hey, kumbaya, we're all happy and this is great and we're all comrades here and everything's great. It's a battlefield. For a loss of words, it's a bloodbath out there. The kid that stepped on your dad's foot in the track and said, get off my track. I mean, you're going against those type of people with the strongest drives, the strongest mentalities out there. And they're not there to beat you. They're there to kill you, draw blood. That mentality is only a mentality that is set in stone during the time of competition. I can say with most confidence, once that competition's over, the same guy that was out there for blood is the same guy that is able to be out there and congratulate you and tell you, dude, one hell of a job. Why? Because at the end of the day, once you cross that finish line, sometimes it's not just their dreams ending, it's your dream ending. And when I say your dream ending, it's the fact of being like, you just finished and culminated what you've worked your whole life for. Very difficult to even conceptualize. And now you're done. There is no more greater than this. Shifting into what you were talking about, the NBA and people who say, well, I don't want to go to the Olympics. Yes, I do think, and I'll be a very strong advocate about this, money and fame and just notoriety has 100% blinded the spirit behind competing in the Olympics. The Olympics doesn't make anybody money. Let's have that straight. The Olympics doesn't make anybody money. It is something that I would definitely say, if you in any chance of your life, whether you're listening to this now, have the opportunity to even go, to even train, or even on the cusp of making it to the Olympics. Money doesn't buy that. Fame doesn't buy that. It is more about the pride of being able to represent something even greater than even just your country. You're representing an ideal. You're presenting a dream. You're honoring the investments and the discipline and the sacrifice that you poured into the utmost beautiful expression of physical ability out there. The Olympics is one of those avenues. I mean, there's other areas of life that you can express yourself and it be beautiful. I would say the Olympics is the pinnacle of that representation. It's understanding that shouldn't be just a political thing. It shouldn't be just a pride thing, being like, I'm going to go represent the United States. That's a big factor. There's a lot more behind an athlete's mind when it comes to reaching the Olympics that goes even beyond representing just their country. They're making a dream come true. They're honoring the amount of work that is taken to reach there. Then you ask yourself the question as well, well, what about the people who did the same amount of work but didn't make it? That's tough to swallow too.
I guess I just feel like sometimes, especially if you're a pro athlete, which I know some people throw rocks at that. Like, why do we have pro athletes in the Olympics? Remember back to 92, you were probably still a little youngster.
I wasn't even born yet.
Yeah, exactly. But go back and look at it. We were getting our butts kicked in basketball, and we thought, oh, let's get NBA guys to play. And that's what the genesis of the Dream Team and the greatest basketball team ever assembled, in my mind, minus one player. He shouldn't have been on the team, but that's another story for another time. Point is that in that, the U.S. got so fed up with the lack of competitive competition, and Europe was doing it before we were. So we're like, well, if you're doing it, we're going to do it. I don't know how I feel about that still. It's like, what, we should have our own path, not worry about what other countries are doing. Take us into a moment for you, maybe in the Olympics. Maybe it's in the competition, or maybe it's during, or maybe it's just an off day, because I know there were probably a few of those. What was a moment, or maybe a segment of time perhaps, that you were like, oh my goodness, I'm really here? And what did that feel like?
It's sharing the same floor, the same space as people that you watch on TV all the time. It's understanding there is no barrier between you and Michael Phelps. There's no barrier between me and Simone Biles. There's no barrier for me sitting at this table right now in the Olympic Village and having Simone Biles across the table from me. Once you realize that, you're like, oh my goodness. In their world and the standards of the world when it comes to fame and money, yeah, you could say like they're better than me. You guys are in the same Olympics. You've made it. There is nothing greater than sitting and being around these great athletes. You know, walking into the Rio Olympic Village, the first person I saw and met was Rafael Nadal, running from the cafeteria because everybody wanted photographs and autographs. All the other Olympic athletes wanted autographs and photographs with Rafael Nadal, and he was just trying to get something to eat before his practice. And so I sit there and I admire them. I don't really bug their personal space, and it's a privilege to be in that space with those level of people and athletes, greatest athletes of all time. Novak Djokovic in the Tokyo Olympic. If we're talking basketball, I mean, being able to take photos and be right next to KD and Wade and all those guys out there parading, you know, for their country, and just being able to be there, sitting there and be like, these guys there's nothing better. I mean, this is it. And you're here. And once you start reframing that, that's when you realize, oh my goodness, you've made it. That is a humbling realization. I don't think anybody's above the Olympics. I don't think anybody should be above the Olympics. I think the Olympics should have the sentiment of being able to be like, no, like you're around other 9,000 athletes every 4 years that make it. I mean, that the percentage of humans to athletes that make it to the Olympics is extremely small. When you're able to put that into perspective, you start realizing, admiring not just yourself, but the people next to you that might not speak your language, that are from another country, and understanding that they made the same efforts and the same sacrifices for you to be there. And so it is the pinnacle of a celebration as well, of years and years and years of hard work. But yeah, that would be my experience, and being able to be like, well, this is it, you know, and sharing the same atmosphere as the greats.
You mentioned sitting at a table with these, mega superstars. Makes me think of a question we ask folks during this season, and it's this: it's true or false, if respect is no longer served, is it time to leave the table, and why?
True. Respect has to do with respect to other people and self-respect for yourself, because it's not just about people not respecting you, it's also about you respecting people. The second part, what I just said, is the hardest part, because you have to throw in humility and understanding, am I respecting this person? Am I honoring these people or this thing, even myself? And then clearly it's hard for somebody who's not respecting other people to even ask themselves that question. How are you going to grow in life if you don't even have the humility to accept certain things for yourself? That true or false question is true. It's time to leave the table. Respect is everything. It's not about agreeing with other people. It's not about accepting other people. It's about respecting people for who they are, because I do believe a lot of people have a lot of good to bring to the table. Most people do. Some people don't know how. When there's differences being presented between two people, the only thing that links people is respect. And if you can't have that, then what are you adding to yourself, or what are you adding to other people's lives? That all goes back down to the fundamental principles of what I'm saying. If I'm not leading in love, then where is there space for respect to even happen, even if I don't agree with them? even if they don't agree with me. It's a mutual understanding.
How much is respect? Where do you put that on the value scale for you in respect?
Yeah, that's been growing in the past few years. It's getting up there, and it's getting up there not just for my personal journey, my personal life, but also seeing what's happening in our society today. The amounts of divisiveness that there is amongst us, the ability for people to emotionally and psychologically not just coincide, but co-live with people that they don't agree with or that they don't see eye to eye with. Again, it's not about accepting them. It's not about agreeing with them. I mean, at least respect each other. That is something that, at least for me, is growing up in that sense. When I talk about respecting other people, I'm going to, more than ever today, I'm going to encounter people that I might not agree with. More than ever today, I'm going to I'm going to put myself in situations that I might not be agreeable. What else do I have to give there? Do I have defensiveness? Do I have attackness? What is it? When I look at my life and say, well, what do you want to live by? Charles, respect the differences. Don't agree with them, but respect the differences. And one thing just came to mind as well. If you're in a group of people that you always agree with and they always agree with you and you're comfortable in that space, at least for me, it's all about, well, how much are you growing? How much are you challenging yourself to put yourself in uncomfortable positions? To do that, I mean, again, you have to have a character of respect. And that's a big one for me. That allows me to not just be in places that I'm accepted and that I'm comfortable in, but also be in other spaces where I can live with people, but as well, I can also bring something to the table and they can always bring something to me. I think there's a beauty in that agreeability.
You know, Usain Bolt, you heard of that guy, right? I feel like
Yes.
I keep giving you athletes and you're like, wow.
Absolutely.
Too
I've
young.
seen him in person. He's
too
a
young
monster.
for that. He's a monster even, huh? Just
He's a
as an
monster.
athlete, just an amazing guy, right?
Yes.
Have you had any conversations with Usain? Just asking for a friend who admires his craft.
No, I've never had a conversation with Usain. When you're at that level of peak of being the fastest runner in the world, having the results that he did, hard to get his attention. I would say the best conversations I've ever had with high level athletes, Simone Biles. Simone was super, super kind. Was able to connect with her in Rio a little bit. She actually started the Kentucky Derby. I was at the Derby here in Louisville. And so she started the race off. So just being able to be like, yeah, you know, I had a conversation with her over a meal and just being able to see that. Great. Andy Murray as well. I'm a big tennis fan. I always surround myself through that world as well. That's my retirement sport. Who knows where I'll make it with that. But at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, just conversing with these athletes, it's difficult sometimes, even difficult for them. I mean, they're humans. And so you have to understand the perspective of being like, I can't imagine how tired they are of people too. That doesn't mean that they have the right to dismiss people in certain ways that I've seen certain athletes and certain high public figures dismiss people. You have to sympathize a little bit with them as well, with the amount of attention that they get, and let alone the amount of attention they get from people who just want something from them. They don't want to deal with who they are as a person. High level of sports, it's very difficult to decipher who wants something for you because of what you do rather than who you are.
I think that's the fascinating dynamic is I have a very good friend and he's never been starstruck. Never. And we've had famous people come through Medford, Oregon, bands, Christian athletes, Christian music stars. And I'm like, oh man, I got to shake hands and hug and so. And he's like, they're just a dude. They're just a whoever. Like, do you know that? And I'm like, yeah, but they're awesome. And he goes, yeah, but they're just a person at the end of the day. And I was like, you mean to tell me if Michael Jordan walked through here, you wouldn't be like, oh my gosh. He goes, sure, I guess. But at the end of the day, he's still Michael Jordan. And I'm like, I don't know. Well, I bring up Usain Bolt because I love this quote that he's attributed to saying. And it's this: I trained 4 years to run 9 seconds. People don't see results in 2 months and give up. Fascinating to me. 9 seconds. That's 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000, 5 1,000, 6 1,000, 7 1,000, 8 1,000, 9 1,000. The dude's run 100 meters. By the time I finished that little, and that's probably even a little slow. My clock was a little slow compared to him. But my point for you is how does that quote fit into your life and what you're about? Because I would venture to guess there's some parallel there.
Oh, extreme parallel. I trained 6 years without one really major breakthrough in my career. 6 years of traveling the world, of sacrificing, of leaving school, just working my tail off to perfect the art of being the best in 5 sports for 6 years. And it was just one day to another that I had made it to the Olympics. You really have to be sure of where you put your time in. You have to be sure what makes you and what moves you, what makes you feel more passionate about life. And And in this culture, in this world where, again, you will hear this over and over again, but it's the most true thing possible. And I cannot put more emphasis on it. What you see on social media, what you see in the public eye is only the best of the best when it comes to somebody's life and what they've done to achieve that. Or they could have also taken the shortcuts and screwed over people and done things that have gotten them there the easy way. When you realize that, especially if you're starting a business, if you're in sports, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're trying to achieve something worthwhile achieving, I can tell you for a fact, the more that you listen to the public eye, the more that you listen to the things around you and you say, well, these people have and it looks so easy. Believe me, it's either they already worked their tail off or there was some sort of help or some sort of shortcut that they took to get there. I will tell you, if you want to take a shortcut, go ahead. You'll pay the consequences in the long run. With all this, I would say that for my personal life, I really have to step back even now today and understand that my journey and where I want to be or where I think I want to be in the next few years and what I want to achieve is not going to come in 2 to 3 years. And I can't even take a look back and say, well, because I'm an Olympic athlete, I deserve for this to happen because I already did the work. It's like, no, you decided to end a career and now you got to go and chase another Olympics and somewhere else. What does that look like? How much time does it take to invest into something new? With Usain Bolt is impressive. Imagine knowing in your mind, because he knows this, imagine knowing that all the effort, 4 years of time, is only going to last 9 seconds. And it's not just participating in those 9 seconds, it's also understanding what edge, how am I going to become the best of the best versus somebody in another country, in another hemisphere that's doing the same amount of work, even better than me, and trying to outbeat me. There's a lot that goes into not just being like, oh, I'm going to wait 4 years. It's like, what are you doing in those 4 years to get to those 9 seconds? And then you have to conceptualize, it's over, it's done. Those 9 seconds are done, my friend. Very rarely will you have a Michael Phelps, a Usain Bolt, a Simone Biles that's going to live off their own legacy for the rest of their lives, and they're going to be fine and they're going to be financially well, emotionally and psychologically we're all in the same boat there. We're all in the same boat there. What do you do when you've invested 4 years or 13 years or 20 years of your life for 9 seconds? Now it's over. Really wrestle with those ideas and those realities. Nothing worth achieving comes easy, and it definitely doesn't come fast. With the technology that we have today, it might come a little bit smarter. Don't take the shortcuts because you're only going to fall short for your own self.
You mentioned Michael Phelps. I like him too. Fascinated by him. What I'm more fascinated by was a story I heard a friend of mine in Houston who actually heard him speak at a conference for kids with cancer. He said Michael Phelps talked about the gold medals that he has, all the accolades, and he's sitting in a parking lot in Baltimore where he's from, and he wants to kill himself. And I'm thinking, how can a guy like that, with his success that he has had and the influence that he's had and the lives that he's touched by his pure ability to be an amazing athlete and really funny, but sort of like a fish. I mean, the dude can swim like a fish or a dolphin. And how can he sit in that Baltimore parking lot and contemplate whether he should keep breathing or not? I don't know if that's ever been part of your story or if that's the dark side of the Olympics or the dark side of professional athletes we don't want to talk about. We just want to praise them. We just want to put them on pedestals and we want to hang medals around their neck. The reality is, again, when it ends, I've heard pro athletes say, and not that you're not a pro athlete, NBA guys and NFL guys say, when it's over, and it crashes fast. And that ego, that identity just disintegrates, like sand through their hands.
There's nothing more true than that sentiment for anybody that reaches those pinnacles. And I'm not just talking about those who reach that, but even those on that journey. It's an identity crisis that is extremely difficult to manage. Even I thought I made a pretty good dent on the work when it comes to identity crisis. And it's something that I can't escape. It's extremely difficult because, again, your most formative years as a human being, your most formative years as an adolescent in your childhood, once you reach 10 all the way up until 16, 17, is embedded in sports and performance and being better and getting better and in achieving a result, a mark. That is your identity. Your identity is to perform. When you no longer do that, it's not a question. It's not a philosophical question of being like, now who am I? Who am I going to reinvent myself to? It's I literally don't know who I am, because if I'm not doing that, then what am I doing? It's in your, you even change your genetics at that point. And so there's that piece. Then you take it a step farther and you're like, okay, well, are you a successful athlete? How much accolades do you have? How much distractions do you have? How many people around you do you have that don't have the character, that don't have the self-respect for themselves and for you, and who don't really love you for who you are? How much of all of that surrounds you to the point where you're so distracted by the accolades and the flashes and all that stuff, to the point when that's all taken away? I would most likely say most of those people are going to go and chase somebody else, chase something else. And then you're left alone. You're left alone in a hotel room. You're left alone in a car. You're left alone in an apartment, trying to reinvent yourself. And you just feel like nobody knows who you are. You don't even know yourself. So you can't even explain yourself to somebody, other than the fact that of saying, I was an Olympic athlete, I was a pro athlete, but I'm done now. And they're like, oh, well, what are you going to do now? It's like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. I don't even know who I am. And so it's tough, because it is a crisis of identity that is inevitable. It's inevitable. It's very difficult to have somebody come from the Olympics and easily transition into this whole other identity and this whole other life that not just surpasses, but shadows the past in order for them to be fulfilled in the future. Not many people have that capability. And I will tell you for a fact, money doesn't solve that. It does not solve that whatsoever. And so and not to shed positivity on mental health issues and depression, but there's a beauty in understanding that it doesn't matter how high you went, we're still all human. And it doesn't matter how low you are, we are still all human. And when you're able to sympathize with somebody, regardless if they're up here or regardless if they're down here, if you're able to sympathize somebody and meet them eye to eye because of the intrinsic value that they have in the human beings that they are, I do believe that that's the starting point, and being able to start over again and be like, no, I'm not this, but I'm also not this. I'm Charles, right? You're Neil. And we can see eye to eye in the emotions that we live. We can see eye to eye in who we are, how we were created. But to get to that point, dude, it's extremely, extremely difficult, because if I phrase it this way, you've given your whole life, all your energy, all your emotions, your spirit, your soul, your body, your mind, everything into this one dream, this one goal. All your energy, that is now done. Do you think you have the energy to go and do that again in somewhere else in life? Hell no. You're tired. You're fed up. You're exhausted. So what do you do in that exhaustion? You really can't do anything if you're tired. And so that I can definitely say that I would sit here and say, just as Michael Phelps has, and I have, and a lot of other athletes have, and say, I'm tired. Like I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I just did this, but I'm exhausted. And then you're met with the reality that life moves on. And if life moves on and you don't have the energy to move on with life, what's your other option, right? In our minds, and there are other options, but in our minds, it is the idea of suicide. It is the idea of, I've done it, dude. I don't have the energy to move on with life. Let's just end it here and call it a day. But it's tough. And again, it's not just Olympic athletes. It's everyone. Everyone, even listening to this podcast. I'm sure there are a lot of tired people out there. And so the important thing is really trying to reframe your mind and be like, no, I have a value. I have something to give. It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but there's something that I have to give. And so if I can hold on just one more day, if I can have the hope that I have something to bring to the table when it comes to reaching into the most inner part of my soul and my being, and understanding that I am made for greatness, I am made to create. And then you start exploring that spirit of adventure, that spirit of purpose. Slowly but surely, you'll find yourself starting to draw near to the next thing, or to the thing that you were meant or created for. For me, I was able to express myself in sports. Michael Phelps was able to express himself in sports. But that doesn't mean, you're nobody if you don't make it in sports. It just means, well, maybe that's not the avenue. Maybe it's over here. Maybe it's over there. But you never know if you're never going to try. But that really sums up the idea of really what goes on in our minds, but not just our minds, but I feel like in everybody's minds. I don't know if that triggers or sparks something inside of you.
Well, it sparks a lot. It sparks a lot from the standpoint of, I think we forget the value that people bring. When we see greatness, we think it's going to be there forever. And the reality is it's not. And then when it's gone, we're like, wow, that was great. We do reminisce. I know when Kobe Bryant passed, people still to this day are devastated by that. And rightfully so. It was a tragic event. But I think they really walked away with this persona that Kobe is this amazing athlete, and he was. The challenge is do we remember what he did as a basketball player, or do we remember what he did for humanity? I hope it's what he did for humanity. That basketball gave him an opportunity to give more to humanity. He used that as a vehicle to get there. Talk about you, and in this moment, somewhere along the way, did somebody give you, or did somebody share something with you that really motivated you to keep going? Because I would imagine, much like Usain Bolt, there were probably periods of times where you wanted to stop, where you didn't want to go to that next practice, or didn't want to run that next interval training, or whatever it may be. But you were like, nope, this is the plan. This is the purpose. I got to keep going. Going back to Steve Prefontaine again. You should look him up. He's amazing. He has a quote, too, that he's attributed to saying, and that's this. It's one of my favorites also. He says, to give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift. Is to give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift. How does that resonate with you?
Two things. First thing is having the right people around you to believe in who you are, not to believe in your results, not to believe in what you're capable of, but to believe in who you are as a person. And those people come and go. Some people of those will stay in your life for forever, and others will be there for that season, those years, and then life moves on. And that's something that you need to accept. For me, in my personal life, I'm blessed with parents, people who believe in me. They've supported me growing up in a third world country and being in the world of social work and nonprofits, and being a missionary kid and then turning Olympic athlete is not the easiest transition. But I had parents that believed in me and believed in the intrinsic value and worth that I had as a person. Once they leveraged that, helped me express that in sports, that was the most fulfilling factor and the most constant factor in my life that led me up into the Olympics, and being like, these are the people that are back, that backed me. And now that I'm in this journey now, in this transition, and trying to look forward, well, right now, the person in my life right now that really is that stronghold that believes in me, even after me achieving everything and not even believing in myself now, is right now my girlfriend, who I met a couple years ago, and just been that constant factor, a godsend, an angel in my life to really hold who I am as a person and steward that, of believing in me as an individual, as a human being who has feelings, who has thoughts, and then channeling that and being like, Charles, like, this is not over for you. Like, you're just getting started. That for me has been a massive moving force in my life, and leading into what you said, and this beautiful quote that I've never heard that is gorgeous. I mean, it moves me. I would say that in order to give your best, you got to be present, and something that I move by, and it's hard sometimes to remind myself of, but I live by. And every single little thing that I do is to be present, is to be powerful. My quote is, to be present is to be powerful, meaning if you're not here today giving all of yourself to the things that you believe in, to the people that you love, to yourself too, you might not be able to forge the future that you want for yourself. So be present, be powerful in the presence where you're most powerful to bring change for the future. If you're present and giving all of yourself, then in the future, you're going to be able to give back, because there's joy in giving. There's joy in being generous. There's joy in being able to be somebody who brings something to the table that's not just looking to take something from the table. That's something that I feel like we have to have a shift in mentality in being, what can I give versus what can I take? And in this conversation, it all goes back to those fundamental principles and values of what I live by. Yeah, maybe my North Star might not be a certain set objective, but at least I know if I can live the quality of life through those lenses and through that perspective, then whatever comes next, whether it is that I become this hyper successful individual that is able to help other people in their journeys of performance or in their journeys of retirement, or simply being somebody that's a loving father or a loving spouse or a loving partner, regardless of what that looks like, as long as that's in alignment to that North Star, to that integrity, then I believe that at least in the life that I've lived so far, that is a pretty interesting life. It's only going to result in something more beautiful as time goes forward, even though today I might be sitting here being like, I am freaking struggling, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to show up today on this podcast and give my best self to people who are giving me an opportunity as well. That means the world to me.
I didn't realize you never heard that quote. It's pretty famous. That shocks me.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that down.
You should. It's good. I have it on a lot of posters. I have it pretty much anytime I look at something on a computer screen. It shows up as a background image just to remind me of that. Especially in here, in the studio especially. I have to have it in here because I'm like, this is the gift I feel God has given me, the gift of doing this show. So speaking of things but why do this show? I mean, you could have done a lot of other things, but you chose to say yes. I'm always curious on that.
I am a striving performance coach now. I'm somebody who wants to optimize performance in people's lives in order for them to tap into the greatness that they have within them. I know it sounds super, super general, but in reality, being able to experience that for myself has been something beautiful. And as a performance coach and motivational speaker now, I'm able to want to bring my experiences to the table and help people tap into the abilities and the opportunities that they have as humans to excel and not lose themselves in the process. So just doing this podcast really is more about just telling my story. And if anybody really resonates with that and really wants to have these type of conversations, I'm not for anybody and not everybody's for me. You can never go wrong with trying to be the best version of yourself and the most authentic and the most really honest person. And if somebody resonates with that, then I normally always say, well, those are the type of people that you want to be around. And for me, just to tell my story again, it's tapping into the fact of being like, well, I don't want my past to go to waste either. I don't want my perspective to go to waste. It's been one hell of a ride and it's been a beautiful ride. Again, sometimes people are stuck and they might not have the right people around them to really breathe into their dreams and help them take sail into that journey. Then, that's what I'm here for. And I would only love to bring that value to those people's lives in the most genuine way possible. I don't think myself better than anybody. I don't think myself less than anybody. It's just a fact of understanding that if there is somebody that resonates with this podcast and just takes a message and anchors their life to that, then that's enough for me. But if there's other people out there as well that are being able to resonate in the sentiment of even retirement or even starting something new, or even in the journey of being like, no, I need to reach this next level peak performance. For me, it's like, well, then, I'd be more than happy to help you out there. And that's also my North Star. I believe in it like nobody's business. I would love to become one of the best in the world. And that is my big and audacious goal. And I know that I will achieve it one day. Just because I was an Olympic athlete doesn't mean I deserve to be up there. I got to put in the work and I got to show up. And having this opportunity with you is something that I'm extremely grateful for, that I don't take lightly. So thank you so much, Neil.
Yeah, my pleasure. So how can people get in touch with you? What's the best way? Is there a social media of choice you love to hang out on?
Yeah, right now I'm just on LinkedIn as Charles Fernández. You can look me up there. You'll see a photo of me, and then there's in my banner there's an Olympic medal with a quote up there. Just reach out to me through there. That's the easiest way to do so. Current state, again, I'm still someone who is forging their own path, but I know for a fact that this has been something that I've working on for many, many years now. But yeah, just reach me out to LinkedIn. If there's anything that, if that doesn't work, I hope they would only reach out to you and your social media, and then you can reach out to me and send them over to me. Find me. If you really want to, you'll find me. And that's that's all I can say. No, I appreciate everything. I would only hope that if anybody would love to work with me, I'd love to talk with them, hear their story, and see if there's something of value that I can add to them, whether it be in the short run or even in the long run.
You're not playing hide and go seek. You're easily found.
I'm easily found. I mean, you can, just look me up on LinkedIn. It's
right.
there for right now. And yeah, that's really where I'm at.
Well, thanks so much for being here. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate you giving up some time from all the activities that you were a part of, and just really appreciate you and what you shared and the insight into the Olympic Village and all things Olympics. I do really appreciate that. And thanks for what you gave. It was awesome, man.
No, I appreciate it, Neil. I appreciate your mission here, what you do, people into your space and looking into the size shoe that they fit. Appreciate that. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Well, just for the record, I couldn't fit into your shoes. They're a little small. But you know what? You came up in a big way today. Just because you have small shoes doesn't mean that you can't make a bigger impact. All right, guys and gals, kids and campers alike. Guess what? That is it. That is all. That is, in fact, I know, it's sad. That's our show today. Listen, as we go, think about that for a second. Go back in time to 7-year-old you. Were you like laying in the bed, looking at the ceiling? Did you have like one of those like plastic stars on the ceiling? I had those. We tried to make like the Big Dipper with them. Can you go back to that moment where you're just laying in bed and you're looking up at the ceiling and you're like, one day I'm going to get out of here. One day I'm going to do fill in that blank. Maybe that's even you right now. We came out of a series called Unmade. You know, we had this unmade bed and this messiness and this chaos. And one day I'm going to get out of this chaos. One day I'm going to get out of this mess. What if tomorrow is that one day where you finally say, okay, one day no more. Today's the day. What is that? Seize the day? How are you going to seize not only today, but this week, this month, this year? What is it that you need to do to stop living in the one day and start living in the nowadays? Nowadays, this is what I do. Nowadays, this is my rhythm. This is my routine. This is now my nowadays, not that one day. Let me know. I'd love to know what that is for you. I could give you some ideas on what mine is, and Charles could as well. Let me know. OPSpodcast.com is a great place to let me know. You can let us know on the socials, of course, at OPS Podcast Show under Facebook, Instagram, and X. And last, of course, but certainly not least, do not forget this when you go. Remember, when you walk in other people's shoes, you really do get a different perspective on life. I want to thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned until next week when, guess what again? That's right. We'll be walking in other people's shoes.